Hi, and welcome. It's Psychic Cynthia here, Spiritual Psychic Cynthia Killian. And welcome to all of you fellow stargazers and cosmic seekers of the light. Mercury's about ready to go retrograde. It's not going retrograde yet, so relax. But we are in the pre-retrograde shadow. That's shadow. It's not the retrograde proper. It's not even the pre-retrograde storm. And if you haven't heard that technicality of the shadow, if you're not familiar with that jargon, all it really means is it's Mercury, and it was actually last Thursday, Mercury reached the degree at which it will eventually retrograde back to. So that was 8 degrees Virgo, and it entered the pre-retrograde shadow. Let's check my notes here. You know, I'm going to check my notes. I almost never use notes, but because Mercury is in its retrograde cycle. Notice I said it's in its retrograde cycle. It's not retrograde yet, but the cycle is really larger than the retrograde proper. So double check everything, okay? And yes, last Thursday, August 3rd, let's make sure that's right according to my notes. Yes. And it was at 8 degrees Virgo. And now, you know, it's still having forward motion. By the way, the planet Mercury does not move backwards during the retrograde, and I might have some other videos somewhere where I explain that. I'll have to look and see. It's just basic astronomy. When we say a planet is moving retrograde, what we're actually talking about is the orbit of the Earth, the relationship between the orbit of the Earth and that planet. So it's we here, it's our orbit that's actually changing. But anyway, that might be getting too nerdy for some of you. So, but we know it affects us, right? We know. And if you're not familiar with Mercury retrograde, well, most people are nowadays. But you know, especially once the retrograde starts, this marks a 3-week period where we see more breakdowns in technology and communication breakdowns, more misunderstandings, more scheduling mess-ups, and a lot of delays. And really, I think that for the whole cycle, not just the retrograde proper, but the shadow and the storm, and listen, you don't have to understand all the technical terms to get the big picture. The whole cycle, though, is a cycle of slowing down. Remember that. If you don't remember anything else about Mercury retrograde, remember it is a time when things feel as if they're slowing down. They also get kind of crazy and chaotic sometimes. So that's another story. And, you know, we'll talk about that story as this grand adventure unfolds. But it's a cleansing process. Metaphysically, that's how we understand it. This is supposed to be a time to slow down. But sometimes I get it. We don't want to slow down. We want things to work on our time clock. Guess what? Mercury doesn't care, and the Earth doesn't care. But I get it. I'm a human being too. So going back to the shadow that we're in now, we're in the pre-retrograde shadow. Which is really just a mathematical portion of it. You know, it's the degree of the sign, how far it will go while in the retrograde. But this shadow does seem to have some subtle effects, and you may not notice it. Okay, you know, these energies may be more internalized for you at this point, and that's okay if you don't notice it. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you or bad. It just means it could also mean you're very heavily armored. Like energetically, you have walls, and sometimes that's a bad thing, and sometimes it's not a bad thing. Sometimes it can serve you well, because maybe some things don't get to you, you know, as much as others. So Mercury retrograde gets to everybody, especially those who claim it doesn't get to them. Anyway, I digress. But the shadow is more subtle, and will be in the shadow period until Mercury enters the pre-retrograde storm. And the storm it relates to the actual rate of orbits between the planets, and basically this is when, you know, that orbit of Mercury relative from here, so it's really the Earth, it's really Earth speeding up, okay? But it appears to be that the orbit of Mercury really starts slowing down when it enters the storm. So that's really what you want to watch for. not the date that it actually is technically retrograde, because by the time it's retrograde, by the way, it doesn't just go retrograde, it stations retrograde, and that is like reaching an almost standstill perspectively from the earth. Um, so yeah, things really kind of start to come undone, and there's more delays and increased frustrations because we keep trying to push at the time of the storm. And that's going to be on Tuesday, August 15th this time, 2023. I'm making this video in fall, well, not quite, summer of 2023. So we're already in the shadow. That started on August 3rd, the evening, so we can almost say August 4th. Actually, for Europe, it would be August 4th. August 4th, August 3rd, August 4th, 2023. And we don't go into that storm until the 15th. So listen, you've got some stuff to wrap up. You've got some important projects to take care of. Actually, you can wrap up important projects during the retrograde. So if you need more time to wrap up something existing, don't worry about that. But it's more if you want to do something new or get something started. And I wouldn't, ideally recommend starting something this close to a retrograde. But if you're going to start it, basically this retrograde is going to run proper. Retrograde proper goes from August 23rd, 2023 to September 15th, 2023. It's always about 3 weeks. So you can just think like the end of August into those first couple of weeks of September. But here's the thing. After the retrograde, you also have the post-storm and the post-shadow. And the post-shadow goes all the way until September 30th. So think about what you want to get done this early fall. And if there's any way you could kind of get a small start on it before, preferably before that storm starts on August 15th, but definitely before August 23rd, that would be good. Because whatever we begin carries the seed of the energy of that moment in time. And you don't want your important projects or love affairs or just any initiatives, jobs. Ideally, you don't want those new things carrying that seed of the energy of Mercury retrograde. And probably not even the storm, but certainly not the retrograde proper. Is it the end of the world if you start something in Mercury retrograde? No. But if you do that, you have to understand, well, you don't have to, but you be wise. You'll be wise to understand and make plans for the possibility of many delays. And also, usually when we start something during Mercury retrograde, or even go on a trip, especially a long trip, there's lots of things that have to be reworked later. Our plans have to be changed. And we encounter more, statistically speaking, we encounter more unexpected snafus and challenges. And the reason for that is it's not because there are more challenges necessarily than there would be. It's that our logic doesn't flow as well during Mercury retrograde, and we're not as organized in our rational brains, so we can't foresee the steps as clearly. So we're careless. That's what I'm saying. We're more careless in a logical business sense. Now, before I sign off, I just want to mention for this particular Mercury retrograde the whole time, well, most of the whole time, okay, not all of it, but for a lot of it, Venus is also in retrograde. Venus is in retrograde until the 3rd of September. And that's something that doesn't happen as often as Mercury retrograde, so a lot of us are really feeling that. I mean, I already have a video for you on that, but just to summarize the Venus in retrograde, I mean, it's kind of a blah feeling, because Venus is such a beautifying, harmonizing principle. It brings the magic to life, the beauty, the fun, the flair. And when she's retrograde in Leo, I mean, Venus in Leo wants to be a diva. She wants to express and wants to be bold, but she's in retrograde, so so yeah, we're having, a lot of blockage of that energy. It might be harder to access that feel-good pleasure principle. Doesn't mean you shouldn't try, just know that it's harder right now, and now we're adding the Mercury retrograde cycle into the mix, so it could be a little tough right now. Go easy on yourself, lots of self-care. Take good care of your nervous system. Take good care of your nervous system. Whatever you need to do to nourish that. I cannot overemphasize that. Um, Try to avoid, doing unwise things like, abusing your body or over drinking, things like that right now. I could see where some people with the stress of these retrogrades might be inclined to that. Um, your nervous system needs nurturing right now. It needs caring for. Um, look into the herbal teas that nourish the nervous system. Um, when you can, go natural. I mean, if you need some help, if you're having increased anxiety or, you know, I'm not talking about like medical level anxiety, okay, I'm just saying you're a little bit more frazzled than normal, from the retrogrades. You might try some chamomile or some lavender tea or lemon balm or whatever your jam is, peppermint, or some people like lemongrass, or my goodness, there's all kinds of herbal teas. Or green tea, if you still need a little energy. Green tea is so good for the nervous system if you can tolerate it. I know many people who just don't like the taste of it. You have to learn how to brew it right for yourself, brew it the way you want to have it taste and not the same way as black tea, so that's just a little tip. Yeah, maybe don't make the water as hot, okay? That's a basic tip. Yes, green tea has been a lifesaver for me during these types of transits. So, and lemon balm is a favorite of mine. Anyway, I'm digressing here. Not really though, because you got to find ways to take care of you, and of course, meditate. However you do that, maybe your meditation is chanting or drumming. However you access the three, other dimensions of reality, however you move out of 3D into 4D and 5D and 6D. And if you're so inclined, like I am, connect with the star people, the star beings. You can actually connect with the retrograde planets, by the way. You can connect with Mercury. You can connect with Venus. You can talk to them. You can ask them to help guide you through these passages. You can ask them what they want to teach you. A lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just try to push their way through these retrogrades and, keep doing life as usual. And, they screw their lives up. I'm sorry, but I see it, and they ignore the guidance of the planet. These are natural cycles. There's a reason that these orbits are laid out this way. I believe that. I believe it is not accident. It is by some type of design or evolutionary design, if you want to think of it that way. We need Mercury retrograde because we need to reset 3 or 4 times a year. It is a reset. And every couple of years, we need Venus retrograde. We need to reevaluate our relationships, our fashion, our finances, our talents, our skills, and our earnings. And we need to look at our self-esteem, and are we valuing ourselves? Are we valuing others? We need these cycles. I know we don't like them, but we need them. Okay. Sorry. Sometimes my main archetype is the hard-ass teacher. I have to tell you the hard truths, and I'm probably not going to get very many likes or views on this for saying that, but that's okay. The few of you that this reaches, well, you're on the path of wisdom, and that's good, and you'll be happier for it too in this case. Sometimes wisdom doesn't bring happiness, but I think in the case of the retrogrades and understanding the naturalness, that it really helps. And if you approach them with an open heart, with a willingness to learn, to be schooled by the cosmic energy. See, I am a student of the cosmic energies. I am a disciple of the stars and the planets themselves. I let them show me the way to peace, to harmony, to happiness. That's my path. It's not everybody's path, but maybe if you're watching this video, and especially if you've made it this far, it might be part of your path. So, lean into the energies of this Mercury retrograde if you're willing, if you're bold enough, if you can give up a little bit of the illusion of control. Because we don't control these cosmic cycles. We're just like ants, lower than ants. We're not bad, but we're small and insignificant in comparison to these grand cycles. And, approaching them with humility and finding a way that we can do the dance with the cycles rather than, trying to control the dance or dictate it. We don't get to do that. We do not get to do that. You might create your reality with your thoughts, but you don't create the cosmic reality. Don't forget that. All right. That's enough breaking your backs for today. breaking your egos. Okay. It's good to be set free, isn't it though? Alrighty. Until next time, I'm Psychic Cynthia with the star beings themselves, and sending you many bright blessings and much love.